Today's episode is sponsored by Billy Keel's Advisory Services. If you want to learn more about how to make your 99 optional, just go to makeitoptional.com. Once again, that's makeitoptional.com.
Helping you build freedom without losing your edge. This is the Going Long podcast with Billy Keels.
So it's not every single day that you get to share the platform, the microphone, with someone as impressive as today's guest. So check this out. Listen up, everybody. Just hold on. So today's guest not only has an international relations degree, she also has her MBA in marketing from a very prestigious university on the left coast of the United States. I'm sure she's going to tell us a little bit more about that. She's worked across various industries like publishing, retail, financial services, education, and even entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment. And during her corporate career, because this is like she's got a couple stories to tell, and I'm sure she's going to help pivot from left to right a little bit. That's just a little bit of insight into what we're going to be talking about today. During her corporate career, she worked for some of the most globally recognized brands in some of the industries that we talked about. And if she wants to tell you, she's going to tell you exactly which of those companies were. But today she's founded a brand management and marketing consultancy that helps businesses and individuals and strengthen their engagement with the people that are most important to them, to their key audiences. She is the founder, not only of Diamond Brand Amplification, also of the Pivot Lab. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to today's show, Andrea Wade. Andrea, welcome to the show.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Billy. You just did my favorite part. I love your intros. And I feel like you had a second career as like a publicist or something. So, but thank you.
You never know. You never know.
Yeah,
there you go. Maybe I can get some coaching from you. You can help me out.
No, like, please. Like you've got skills, man. Skills. Thanks.
Well, I appreciate that. And I know that the Going Long family today is going to get so much out of the career that you've had, and also not only how you were helping in adding value in the corporate life, but also what you've been doing since then. So I have shared just a little bit, but I always like to ask, just right out of the bat, I know I've given at least a high level overview, but I would really love for you to share with the Going Long family, not just what I've shared now, but maybe even some of the things that have happened, that happened for you along the journey that has helped you to get to this point in your journey, and then we'll see where you and I take the conversation from there. Sound like a plan?
Yeah. No, definitely. So I'll just, I'll kind of start. I think like most of us, we set out on our college path and we think we're going in a particular direction. Like you mentioned, I was an international relations major. And so part of that, I thought, okay, well, look, I'm going to be a diplomat, so maybe even I'd have been your neighbor, kind of living abroad and working abroad or something. And my path to that, at least in college, I thought, because I went to Tufts, I thought that, okay, I'll go into the CIA. Well, so I don't know if you know anything about that, but they have this application that's like this thick or whatever. And I got the application and it promptly went into the trash. And, so, and I was on to my next thing. So, but I think what that says, and even me going to Tufts, like you mentioned, I'm out here in California. I've always had this kind of sense of adventure. So that led me to at least go to Tufts. Had never lived on the East Coast, didn't have family there or anything. And I think that's kind of been a theme, is that if I am curious about something, I'm going to pursue it. So I also, one thing about myself is I'm usually, probably like a lot of your audience, pretty committed and hardworking. And so when you do that, I think the first time when you realize that isn't enough, or it doesn't prevent the twists and turns that can impact you or your decisions. It's kind of a bit shocking. So the theme for me, like you mentioned, the Pivot Lab, is when I've had the time and when I finally did kind of look back on everything, was that I realized that that I would follow my curiosity, and that there would be points or some type of things, triggers that would happen that would cause me to look at things a different way. And so even my first job out of college, I did a program called Teach for America, so I was, some of your audience may have heard of it there here in the States. And I was Charter Corps, so it was a new program. So I think like that spoke to my kind of entrepreneurial nature, even though it was a program and I was going and actually getting a job. So, but I did that. And so, which meant I taught for 2 years, but I always knew that I wasn't going to be teaching forever. And so then from there, I actually worked for them in the national office. That led me into publishing, but I always thought that I'd end up in business, which led me to business school. So it had some different, we may get into some of them, some different experiences and things there. But I think that the through line is that when I wanted to do something else, I would just figure it out. But then I would say kind of my professional focus had always been more from a marketing or branding standpoint. Okay. How do you package something so that you can better reach the intended audience and everything? So I think where I am now is kind of a merger of all the different elements. So having the experience on the corporate side in terms of communicating the essence of the brand, and then working with people to help them do that as well.
I love that. So basically being able to take what you learned during corporate and also recognize where the opportunities exist in the marketplace to be able to, as you said, to package, to brand, and be able to make the biggest amount of impact. So there's a lot of different places that we could kind of take the conversation. But there's one thing that I mentioned in the beginning. You've also mentioned it. There's this whole concept of pivoting, right? We're definitely going to come to that, but I'm just curious from you, because you are speaking to people constantly, daily, weekly, and that are in corporate roles today, right? And if you think about, when you and I started in corporate, well, it was a different kind of thing. So what are you seeing that's changing in the corporate landscape, the people that you're speaking to? What seems to be some of the recurring patterns that you hear? And I want to talk more on an individual level, because I know you work with individuals as well as corporates, but I really want to think about that person who is the exec VP or the VP in the company, and they're in the corporate day to day. What are some of the different patterns or some of the different things that you are hearing from those that you speak with that are in the corporate world?
Well, great question. And some of the key things that I think have really been on the rise, maybe in the past 5 or so years, definitely since pandemic, and beyond, is that those more senior levels are the path maybe that they thought was so secure and direct. I think they're realizing that that's not necessarily the case. And that could be for a couple of reasons. One, maybe because they're changing and realizing that they have different preferences in ideas and dreams. But then on the other front, and this is the thing that we're seeing in the news a lot, or whatever, there's kind of the flattening of corporate America. So a lot of those managerial roles, particularly at senior levels, like they're going away. So companies are going through transitions, their layoffs and reorgs and mergers and all these things. And so people are being impacted, or they're seeing those that maybe that they were mentors that they were modeling themselves after, that they're seeing that, okay, at 50 something, at the point where they should have just been, ready to coast, it was like they're kind of out on the street again. So I think there's a different awareness of the fact that people aren't in control of as many things in corporate as they would like to be.
So when you're not in control, because that's a really powerful word, right? One that I think a lot of times, or what I find, is that we don't give enough credence to control. And at the same time, as executives begin to, and I love how you really put that, because there's two different things that are changing. There's the organization that's changing, but more importantly, I believe, is that you're changing, because what you thought at 25 is not what you think at 50 or 55, in terms of priorities, in terms of what you want to control. And one of the things that I think is really important, well, there are two things that are important. One is being able to control what comes into the top, the revenue, income, and more importantly, the time that you have, because that's a fixed asset. Everybody has exactly the same. So to that point, when we're thinking about as individuals are changing, because I think it's something we don't talk enough about. Can you maybe talk to us about, as the individual change, what are some of the changes that you're seeing that come up most frequently as it relates to the individual?
So they're the external life changes that will impact maybe how a person is seeing things, and it happens at different levels. So, it could be that the executive that's on the rise, their kids are a particular age, and they're starting to think about a different level of school, like where it's okay, you're in a certain city, and the cost of high school or the private school that you want to get them into, or even thinking about college. Then there are the things like that maybe on your job where there's a particular promotion and they don't get it, or maybe they realize there's the promotion and they don't actually want it. And
stop, because somebody's riding on the they're riding in their car. They didn't hear that last part. You said something about a promotion, and please repeat what you just said.
Yeah. So I said there's the promotion that you don't get, and then there's the promotion that you've been working your whole career for, and then you realize I don't want it.
Wow.
So that's an aha or an osh moment, So
you mean that actually happens? You may think that you want this role, you've done everything, you've worked all the over hours, you've taken on the special projects, you've actually created the right internal alliances, and you get the opportunity and you doubt it. You mean you talk to people that happens to? And
you doubt it. And it was, well, so here's the thing, because you're saying, do I talk to people? It's not necessarily that black and white sometimes, or whatever. So through conversations that will come up, because a lot of times people start to, they're feeling that and they can't identify it. And it's almost like, I would say a self-sabotage, but it's almost like a self-saving, because there are things where, like, they're so close to it, they're on track, there's that next thing they would need to get to lock it in, but they pull back, so, and maybe without even realizing it's because they don't want it. So that is the part that kind of comes with further conversation. And I say that because you are well-intentioned family and friends who have seen you grinding for a particular role. They're cheering you on. So they're not the ones you can necessarily talk to and say, well, I'm not really sure this is what I want.
That's really powerful. It makes me think of when I took I was leading a business, about $100 million business across Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And I took a lateral move to go from the organization I was to more of a direct working with clients in the field. And I just remember, like, I took that role so that I could shoot up the org chart even faster, right? As part of the Catalyst program, or top talent program is what they called it. Or they called it the other, but it was like a top talent program. And so when I remember after like a couple months, almost a year, and I started looking at my boss and my boss's boss and my boss's boss's boss, like what their calendars look like every day. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was on track. I was ready to, and I was like, you know what? I'm fine. I'm going to stay right here where I am. And so the things that you're talking about, they ring so true. And they make me think about another thing, right? Because as we started this conversation, talked about, you've worked for some of the largest global brands in the world. You've worked in a number of key industries. industries that are growing, consistently growing. And you were in the corporate world. You did the corporate life.
Yeah.
You talked a little bit about it. And I find that you either leave the corporate life for one of two reasons, right? It's because every relationship ends. It's either you want it to end or someone else wants you to end. But you always have a choice as to what you do. And the corporate doors are always open.
Right.
And one of the cruxes of the conversations I like to have is just to help us understand when, you had the choice to be able to do corporate again. And you've chosen to take what you learned and help others outside of the corporate walls. But just to help us understand a little bit of the thought process, kind of what your world was, because every story is so different.
Yeah, no. So I will give a little bit of a story, and it's taken us back. But when I was at a company, Bank of America, but actually at the time it was Countrywide. Okay, so which was no longer in business now, but the mortgage provider. So just before the big financial crisis here in 2008 or 2006, whenever the mortgage crisis started going on, 7-8, I think it started. So there I got to a point, I was in marketing, and the founder and CEO of the company, Angelo Mazzillo, people can Google him. He's passed away now. But we were at a point where a lot of people didn't know the Countrywide name. So they were kind of the machine behind a lot of the mortgage services and everything else. So but if you were trying to do direct to consumer, so you didn't have that trust like you would if you had the name of a more commercial financial institution. So there were things we were trying to do with trying to build more inroads into the multicultural market and things. But it was also a time when it was like, okay, this is a really complex product, but I was working in multicultural marketing. And so they had pulled me in to actually, be a face and a voice of the company for certain things. And to the point where I was getting media training and doing these different things. And it was like Angelo Mazzillo's like, okay, come on. I mean, I was on the private planes with him, on particular trips to conferences. But then I realized there's a problem here because the level of understanding with the complexity of the project and of the product, and then you can fast forward. Obviously, mortgage industry went through a lot, so that was kind of a pivotal. When you talk about choice, that was a pivotal moment for me of like, yes, I can have certain skills and be good at certain things, but ultimately, am I in control of what they do with it? And so I knew at that point, so I didn't leave corporate at that time, but I left that company.
Right.
So and I think through the course of my career, there were different things where other people made decisions, like Angelo Mazzillo made certain decisions ultimately that impacted that company. I was at an internet startup, eToys, which was like the start. I tell people today, it was like when e-commerce first launched, when nothing worked. I was at that company, and so I remember when we were trying to fight bankruptcy and hoping we would be acquired, and only to find out later that Toys R Us, which is also now bankrupt, had put in an offer, but the owners didn't accept it. So each time, like, there were just different instances where other people's decisions were going to impact me. And that was a feeling that I was just uncomfortable with. So, and when you talk about it, I wanted to know that, okay, I'm making a decision. Here's that word again. It was like, I'm in control of my decision. I'm not reacting to something. I'm kind of being proactive.
So, and I love how you've highlighted that word, because it's come up a couple times, right? And it makes me think about what you mentioned earlier. There's so many external forces that come into play as you have more and more life experience. And that's a relevant thing. And as you begin to understand what is the most important asset that exists, because if you're anything like me, like I grew up in a working class family. I watched my parents work 2 jobs, like both of them working 2 jobs just to make ends meet. And so I thought money solved all problems. And I thought the more that I worked, the harder that I worked, if I had more money, that the problems would be solved. But what I started realizing is, as I've also gotten more mature and a little bit older, a couple more grays, is that it's how do you use your 168 every week? The 168 meaning the 168 hours, because that amount of time, that asset is fixed for everyone. And so the more of it that you control, usually the better you feel. At least that's what I found in my experience. And that concept of control has come back a couple different times. And so I appreciate you giving us that insight, but also too, because like you took your pivot and now I know you're helping other people to recognize that it's okay to pivot. Like it is. I'm fine with that. But talk to us about like, how did you become like the pivot queen, become the founder of the Pivot Lab, and also talk to us a little bit about who are you helping today and how are you helping them, Andrea?
Yeah. So, gosh, I'm sorry. The first part of the question, it was just kind of like, how did I do my pivot? Like,
really, like how did because it's such an area of focus for you. So how did that become? Like, how did you become the queen?
Kind of my focus there.
Yeah.
Well, so as far as like me, I guess branding that or really kind of diving into focus on that, I realized that it was something I had been doing kind of in parallel. All along. Like I was doing it just because of my curiosity and nature. I used to call it kind of career ADD. It was like if I wanted to try something different, I would just do it. But then, people started, asking me about it. And I would have friends that, had been in particular industries or roles or things for a while, and they wanted to make a change and they just weren't necessarily clear how to do it or where to start. And again, I'll take us back to COVID, and that's when I realized it was like there was a real need for this. So even it kind of coincided with my own pivot. Like we've talked before, and so when I was working with lifestyle experts or personalities and things, I would say I'm behind the scenes, and that's my nature as a marketer too. It's not about me; it's about the brand. Be it a product, be it a person, or anything like that. Well, in COVID, like I had different instances with the clients that I was working with where people panicked and just certain situations and deals we had done. And I had to separate with those clients. And I started realizing then it was like, well, the things that I was doing for them, I could do for others. Like I needed to do for myself and needed to really kind of think about, it was like, whoa, in order to, amplify, your expertise. Sometimes you have to kind of step out, step into the light, per se. So, it wasn't something. It was something I fought. Meaning it was like I never considered. I was like, I'm a consultant. I'm corporate. I never thought about myself like as a coach or anything like that. But I could see the need, particularly as so many things were shifting in corporate. And so that's when I started looking at more as like, okay, what are the common themes? What's usually kind of the process? So I could help people, and it wasn't necessarily just, okay, this one off here and there. I can put some structure to it, which is how it started. And so who do I work with? I mean, it's the people who are usually, it's like they're doing well in their career. Like everyone from all their friends and family from the outside would look at them and just being like, gosh, you've been so successful. Like you're at this great company and everything, but they feel personally like there's something else. They're either feeling overwhelmed or they're feeling like something is missing, and they're not sure what to do about that. Yeah. And so literally when they come to me or we start working together, one of the first things I have people do is to look at their full life. Now, like this is the whole thing of like you give people what they need, because none of them would think that they need that, but it's like you kind of have to start there in order to really focus on the career piece. So, I would say, just kind of simply is like, I work with people who are in career transitions. So, and even if they're employed, even if they're still at a company, they're in a career transition. So.
Yeah. And what I love about that, right, is the helping that person that's in the career transition. You can be in your role. Like, it's one of these things I talk about all the time. Like, sometimes people will come on, or they'll see me, or they'll send me something through LinkedIn. Like, hey, why are you so anti-corporate? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm not anti-corporate. Like, I worked in corporate for 26 years. It was really, really good to me. I had a family health issue that I didn't want to ask my boss every month if I could fly back and forth to the United States. So it was like, I liked what I was doing. At a certain point, I thought I loved it, but then I realized I really liked it. And then when I started building my own thing, I was like, this actually I love. This one I could do like forever, work on it all the time, all the time, all the time. And so when you have that curiosity, what I love about what you're saying is that this is something that you've had throughout the entire time when you were working. Well, I'm adding that part. You didn't say that, but generally speaking, you also were able to follow your curiosity even when you were working in corporate roles. And so when other people recognize that about you, they were asking you how you were doing it. And so you recognized then there was an opportunity, because there were so many people that had the quote unquote problem. And if you're not watching us on the video, you would see my air quotes and my wink, wink. So that means go watch the video version, please. And so then basically that is helping others to recognize, like, hey, there is this, or gave you the opportunity to recognize, hey, there's a problem that you can bring a solution to. You just needed to put a package around it and be able to then present that, which I think is absolutely phenomenal. So I do have just kind of one other question for you, if you don't mind.
Of course.
Okay. Awesome. Cool. I feel good about that because it's my podcast. I like to have fun. We like to have fun around here. So we talked about the Pivot Lab, and for the person that wants to find out a little bit more about the Pivot Lab, one, I would suggest, and I know you're going to tell us later, to go check out your LinkedIn page. She's got super awesome LinkedIn, everybody. I mean, you definitely need to go check out Andrea. Her LinkedIn is really, really awesome. But no, what would you say to that person that is feeling just like you described, like, hey, listen, I enjoy my job, but I feel like every single day it's a little bit more complicated. Not that I don't like it, but there's this voice that keeps seeming to tell me that I have this skill set that I can also use in another way. I've been denying listening to this voice for a while, but it seems to be getting louder and louder and louder. It's distracting me more and more and more. But everybody, including myself, is counting on me, my role, my title, my paycheck. What do you tell that person? And especially when it relates to that voice that is getting louder and louder and louder.
Oh, gosh. So the first thing is, hopefully they've acknowledged that voice, so because so many times we spend a lot of time trying to quiet the voice, and I would say don't quiet the voice. So then the next question is like, well, the voice, what am I supposed to do with it? So, and that's where, and this is, you mentioned my LinkedIn, where I'm trying to encourage people every day is to find the people or the resources or the things that can help you to process that voice. So because even if you're not ready to take action on it, to at least start to understand, okay, where it's coming from, and what it means. And, it's a process to figure out, like, okay, this voice is saying one thing, what do I do with it? Because you can't immediately act on that voice, because that voice will have you quitting your job and living on the street. So, and it was like, and that's not that's not the answer, so, but if you think, if that voice is getting louder and louder, then, then find someone or find a resource that is helping you to understand it and to come up with a plan. So that you can act on that. And that is essentially what I'm trying to do on LinkedIn. I mean, the whole thing with LinkedIn, and from what I talk about, I will have people that I see in the real world who mention, oh my gosh, your post, they so resonate with me. And I have no idea because I never hear from them on LinkedIn. They're not liking my post because no one wants their boss or any of their colleagues to know that they're liking posts from the Pivot Queen. So I get it. Yeah. But it was like, I'm doing that because I'm the light. I'm throwing out the flare to let you know that you can get to safety, that you can figure this out and that things can be different. So I think that's the first thing. Listen to the voice, know that you're not crazy, find the person or the resources to help you process it and make a plan so that you can move forward.
Absolutely love that. Acknowledge the voice and then take action to figure out your path. Look for the beacons, look for the lights. They're there. And so I appreciate that. So would you say it's been a perfect path, Andrea, from the time that you decided you want to do your own thing to serve others and it's just everything's been perfect?
I don't know. I have no idea what that means. So I really have no idea.
That makes two of us.
So I'm saying I think the path itself is a learning, and I think even I'll just take it from we connected a year or so ago, and then just you invited me on this podcast. I'm just like, oh, okay, great. Like this, that's a sign something's working, so no, it's a continual journey. But I think like you mentioned, and it was just like there was the job that you really enjoyed, but then there's the thing that you're like, oh, but I really love this and I can do this every day. Well, there are things that I try and then I pause them because I don't know, maybe I'll come back to it or whatever. But there's so many things to learn and to try and to do. And so that's really exciting. Perfect path, no, because a lot of it every day, there's something and I maybe want to quit. And it's just because it's new. And there isn't necessarily a roadmap. But that's also what's exciting, because when I do figure something out or make a little bit of progress, when I can look back and see where I've come from, that keeps me going. So,
you're just unfamiliar. That's the only thing. You're just you're unfamiliar with something when you see it the first time or second time, and then you try it. So, what I appreciate about you sharing there is because I'm a recovering perfectionist, so I always used to think everything worked perfectly because I was doing it right. But the reality is, when you leave the corporate constructs, it's really about making consistent progress over perfection, right? And so. And as you have the opportunity to pivot, you try things, and when you realize that it gives you energy, it gives you passion, then you continue down that path. Speaking of which, because I always want to just talk forever, but I guess we can't really talk forever, right, Andrea? At least, well, you and I can. We just not everybody listening and watching us. Everybody else will be watching us on YouTube. They'll be listening to us on their favorite platform or whatever. But but they only have a couple more minutes with us. But speaking of which, so it's not a perfect ride, right? It's not always up and to the right. And you have been in this world post corporate enough to recognize like, hey, listen, there's going to be moments that are really, really high. I've been there. There's moments that are really, really low. Some of those moments even made me not have guests like yourself on the podcast for a while, right? But the reality is that when you take a moment and you think, okay, 2 years from now, things will be different. You don't know if they'll be better, they'll be worse, they'll be different. But there's always going to be a moment that is really testing your resilience, the moment when you are at the bottom. And what I've realized is that the people that care most about you, they're willing to share the things that others won't. And so what I want you to think about is Andrea 3 years from now, right? Yeah. Andrea 3 years from now, as we know, is going to be going through really nice times and is going to be going through some challenges, just the reality. So I want you to leave yourself, because I want you to imagine you and I are sitting back here 3 years from now. We're on the show and we start out with exactly what you said, the answer to this question. And the question for you is, what is the message that you know that you need to hear that's going to get you through those challenging times so that Andrea 3 years from now really looks back and says, hey, Andrea, thanks for sharing that message because I really, really needed it. What's the one message you want to leave your future self?
Oh, gosh. Yeah. So the message my future self is telling me now, is that what you're asking? Yeah.
Yes. Well, that you are today telling your future self because 3 years from now, you're going to need to hear that at some point along the journey.
Oh.
What are you telling your future self?
That 3 years from now, it will have been so worth it to every day do something that absolutely scares me. To take that action and to do the thing that I don't think I'm good at, that I'm not sure if anyone is reading, watching, or cares about. But that every day I should take that action, even though I'm scared.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
So we'll keep this, right?
Yeah.
Because when you need to hear this from yourself, and you can even always go back to the episode, you don't need to wait 3 years along the way, right?
Yeah.
Make sure that you are doing the things every day, even the ones that scare you, because those are the things that are going to continue to propel you. And that is for yourself, Andrea, and also for each and every one of you in the Going Long podcast. There are going to be moments that challenge you. But just like Andrea said, it's a matter of facing those fears, moving progress, not looking for perfection, because that's what's going to help you get to the next level. So, Andrea, like I said, I just want to keep talking to you. I got to wrap things up. But here's the thing, because I'm thinking about how quickly the conversation goes. And like from the very beginning, we're talking about you like the diplomat. And like I said, if you haven't watched the video version, you got to show the video version because Andrea does like this with her hands. And if you're not watching it, guess what? Come over and check it out.
Right, I did. I forgot about it.
Thinking about being a part of the CIA and realizing maybe that's not the thing, even though, it took you from coast to coast. You started recognizing that working hard is just not enough. Like there has to be something more beyond that. And so a lot of that has to do with following your curiosity. You're going to be able to figure out where the problems are along the way. And as corporate helps you to solve those problems, helps you to build a skill set, maybe your curiosity takes you somewhere else, just like it took you somewhere else. And so you start to recognize, you start to interact with more people. They're recognizing that you are able to fill your curiosity, your passions while working in your corporate role. But because so many people are asking, you're starting to think, hang on a second, there's got to be something here. So you brand it, you package it, and you're helping others to solve problems. And you've done that so much that you founded your own companies. You founded the Pivot Lab, one specifically that we've talked about. And I know, and I've already teed it up a little bit, but so many people want to know, Andrea, how in the world can we find out more about you, more about what you're doing with the Pivot Lab, and we can be in touch? Help us understand. Please, please, please.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you so much for that. So please reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm Andrea Wade. Whatever the personal / thing is, it's Andrea Wade, WADE on LinkedIn. Follow, connect, send me a DM. I'm always happy to hear from people. If you have questions, if you want to jump on a call, just reach out.
Awesome. So 2 things, everybody. Listen well. So Andrea Wade is check her out on LinkedIn. Can't miss her. She's got the coolest picture in the world, at least as of today. The background is orange and she's got the most amazing smile. And she is the queen of the pivot. Leave no doubt. This is it. That's the first thing. The second thing, everybody, please do yourself and Andrea a favor. You have invested time watching us, listening to us, and now you want to reach out to her. Let Andrea know that you've already invested time here to get to know more about her story, because it's going to help you and Andrea continue the conversation, be much more efficient, much more effective, and you have a point of reference. So please, please, please don't just make it a generic LinkedIn invite. Make it personalized and let her know you've invested time listening, watching here on the Going Long podcast with yours truly, Billy Keels. Andrea, I do want to say thank you very, very much from the bottom of my heart for deciding to invest your time with me, with the entire Going Long podcast. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. And thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you, Billy. Thanks for having me.
All right, perfect. Going Long Podcast family, make it a great day. Thank you very much. And we'll see you on the next episode. Ciao.